So we go to Nations League B in the end after throwing away what was, mind you, a bit of a robbery with how the second half went, throwing away a good away result um, and getting beat comfortably 3-0 at home to Greece, which doesn't bode well for the World Cup qualifiers against them either, and we've been relegated to Nations League B, deservedly so, with the way that the three halves of football that Greece dominated went, and we couldn't take advantage of the home crowd. And there's a few fingers of blame to be pointed for it. Same culprits in terms of players, for the most part, apart from one or two who I think had off games who, can be let off with it. But there's some players that I think, their time is up or time is coming to an end in the Scotland team at least. And I think the manager's time should be up as well. I think, I've said this before in other ones, he's so frustrating with decisions that he makes. The substitutions, for example, the 3 subs that he made came on 10 minutes too late. They should have been made at half time. Also, you heard from the crowd, as much as Billy Gilmour wasn't having his best game in a Scotland shirt, Ryan Christie was having a way worse game. And he doesn't come off. The crowd were not happy when Billy Gilmour was subbed off. It should be Christie for sure. At that point, the whole song and dance made about getting Lennon Miller in the lineup, and doesn't even utilise him. It's a bit of youth. What you got to lose? You're already 3-0 down. So let's get into it anyway. So, first 10-15 minutes, it was actually okay, started relatively well, kind of similar opening to the first half of the first leg, and then Greece, go up the other end, simple cutback really, and fire it into the back of the net. Just a really poor goal to lose from a Scotland point of view. Can't really point too many fingers, to be fair, at one particular error. It was just from one person or another. Just a few seconds off the pace of the game at that point. And then as soon as they scored, it didn't look anything other than Greece win was going to be coming at that point. Their second goal, obviously, it's a really good finish from their teenage wonder kid that they've got. However, there's a culpable person for the goal in 2 occasions. Ryan Christie, or 2 persons for me. Ryan Christie, who had his worst game in a Scotland shirt for me. A few minutes before this, Billy Gilmour does a really nice back heel to him, and for some reason, prime Ryan Christie's shooting range, he just doesn't hit it, tries to pick out, I don't even know who it is at the back post, maybe it's McTominay, and he just completely fluffed the pass, and then a few minutes later on the break, he also just didn't seem to be breaking his neck to get back in to try and stop the ball cross in the first place. But Andy Robertson as well, who, he's in this situation, he just sprints away from his man. I don't know why, which leaves the kid open at the back post for what was a tremendous finish, to be fair to him. But Robertson just completely sprinted away from him for some reason, and leaves him open. My opinion on Andy Robertson for a long time now is that, at Liverpool he gets bailed out by a really good defensive line, particularly since he's, usually accompanied by Van Dijk with that. But for whatever reason, he forgets how to cross a ball when he plays for Scotland. He's never, ever a captain for me. He obviously got made captain just because he was playing for Liverpool at the time. John McGinn, in my opinion, should be the Scotland captain, but it is what it is. And I do feel as though, there was a spell that Andy Robertson had, a few 7, 8 out of 10 performances, but the vast majority of his performances in a Scotland shirt, 5 out of 10 at best, most times. And I think if you asked most Scotsmen, they would tell you that Kieran Tierney is a better option at left back, particularly if you're going to play a back 4. But the back 4 for me does not work if you don't have the wingers to play the back four. And with Ben Doak missing, we should have reverted back to the back five. We would have been more solid defensively, and we just didn't have the pace or the width to get in behind with the forward at the back with the lack of Ben Doak. Half time happens. Christie definitely should have been subbed off. I'd have subbed off Andy Robertson as well. And, the subs don't happen. You just expect them to make a change at half time. You've chucked away a 1-0 lead, you're 2-0 down. You need to get something up. And then we concede the goal within a few seconds of the second half restart. Ryan Christie, he shouldn't have been on the park in the second half anyway, but just a really slack pass. However, it takes a few seconds afterwards for Greece to actually score. I didn't notice it at the time, but if you look back on it in the highlights after the game, the defensive line, Ralston, Hanley and Robertson are all in line, and for some reason John Souttar is a few yards deeper, plays the guy on side, and it's another decent finish from Greece. But, Christie's pass is where the goal comes from, but Souttar today as well, not only was his line terrible for that goal, but he was trying diagonal passes and big long balls, and I don't think he managed to find anyone with it. He tried it maybe 9 times. It was just awful. In comparison, the subs happen a few minutes later. We do look a bit more decent when Ferguson, Tierney, and Hurst came on. Few more chances potentially being created, not taken, of course. And then Andy Robertson actually does well initially to win the ball with a slide tackle, and then he tries to nutmeg the guy instead of just emptying it. Grant Hanley gets caught in all sorts of bother. Pavlidis, I think it is, dinks Gordon, and Souttar, in fairness to him, does clear it off the line. Should be 4-0 at that point. We make 2 subs later on. The crowd actually somewhat cheered when Andy Robertson got subbed off, and Ryan Christie did when Wilson and Conway came on. I'm not going to judge them too much. Their strikers getting played out wide, so I'm not going to judge their performance too much. Plus, they got subbed on with no time left to impact it really. The only ones that really looked positive in the game at times, John McGinn, I thought he gets pass marks. Tierney, I thought, tried really hard to impact it when came on. Obviously, the effort at the end that was saved. Ferguson, I thought, put himself about coming on as well. Other than that, it was just shocking. And I think, Steve Clarke needs to take the brunt of the blame, because he keeps picking players that should be nowhere near the team at this point. Grant Hanley's not even getting a start for Birmingham in the 3rd tier of English football. That says it all, really. Keep picking him. He's never... the goals by no means were his fault tonight, but it's just a better quality centre-half, can push further up the park quicker, can actually find a man as well. Andy Robertson should be stripped of the captaincy, in my opinion. I wouldn't personally play him over Kieran Tierney out on the left, particularly if you're going to play back 4, but, I think that's what's going to happen. But John McGinn should be awarded the captaincy, in my eyes. Kenny McLean, good servant, gives you a solid 6 out of 10, 5 out of 10 performance most of the time, but, we've got much better players than him in the squad that need to start featuring now as well. The sooner we get the likes of Aaron Hickey and Ben Doak back, the better. The main problem area, though, for us is up top. We have, loads of strikers that get called up, but none of them appear to be able to consistently put the ball into the back of the net for Scotland. We're relying far too heavily on the likes of Scott McTominay and John McGinn to put the ball into the back of the net. It just, I don't know, it's not good. I'm going to wrap it up there because it's just going to turn into ramblings of the same things now, but we've got a couple of friendlies coming up in the summer, which, if Clark is still on the job, I would rather he wasn't, but I think he's probably going to be until his contract's up, because at the end of the day, he did get us to 2 major tournaments. However, no manager, no matter what they've done, should be unsackable. The friendlies need to be used to give some guys run-outs to see what we're dealing with some of the younger guys. There's no point in calling them up just to appease people and then not giving them the time to shine, really. I mean, what would the harm have been as soon as it came 3-0, throwing Lennon Miller on to see what would have happened in the midfield? I don't know. And then we need to be ready come the World Cup qualifiers as well. We would love, I mean, we've gotten to 2 Euros, and some people I've seen on Twitter and stuff would argue that the Euros is more difficult to win than the World Cup. I want to get to the World Cup though. It's the World Cup. Denmark and Portugal are still to play tonight, so we'll see which one of them we end up getting in the group. But Greece have just spanked us at home, so that's going to give them a massive confidence boost for the World Cup qualifiers. And you don't even get automatic qualification for finishing second anyway. So it's going to be really tough, and hopefully by the time they roll around, we've got Aaron Hickey back fit, Ben Doak back fit, key players back fit, and there are certain players that never feature for Scotland again, hopefully. Thank you very much to the new viewers and subscribers as well. I like to keep mentioning that, of course. Please check out the other content on the channel, and I will catch you in the next one.